Hello, welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them into your everyday looks. Hello, Billy. How's it
Hi.
going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good,
Doing some
good.
hands. Doing some
Yeah, yeah.
hands.
So emojis, like I use emojis all the time. People are like, "Well, what is like the hands up one or like this?" I'm like, the one with the hands on the side. I'm literally like, I do jazz hands all the time, people. And like the other one, I'm like, it's like when like your team is just scored, like
That's what I
yes, and
think it
like
is. It's like, yeah,
okay, all right. So some
yeah.
people are like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, do you not watch a pro sports team that you cheer for? But anyway, so hello. Today we were going to kind of continue a portion of a recent episode where we were talking about building a character and how
Right.
you're like making that look, but something that a character wears just as much as an article of clothing or agreeably is their name,
Absolutely.
right?
I
I mean,
like the
it's
way you
not,
put that. Something
yeah,
that they wear. Yeah.
it's something that they wear. I mean, you wear your name throughout your life and you ever meet somebody and you're like, wow, I did not think you were a Steve. Right? Or like,
Oh,
and this
Steve.
is like we talk about in Burgundy Squadron, like kind of joking about gosh, I did not know what your voice sounded like. I
Yeah.
forget a lot of people's real names. And so
hmm
I just kind of do give them my own names in my head. And I'm like, I don't know, I think that guy's name is Joe.
That's
Like it's
Larry.
yeah.
Larry.
Like it's
Good
very
old
much.
Larry.
And some people are a little surprised to find out what their real name is. I'm like, oh wow, okay. Um, yeah, so if I ever can't remember your name, I'm so sorry because we have screen names, we have character names, and we some of
Yeah.
have actually real names. But naming your character, this is also a thing. I don't know when this episode's gonna air, but I am still prepping for HelsiCon, which is in
hmm
exactly 2 weeks that I fly out. Um, and it
Okay.
is down to the wire because I have a lot of things to do that are not HelsiCon related. And I have
Okay.
this one character. I don't even have a name for it. Not that it's really gonna matter. I don't think there's a ton of role playing going to happen at this event. But I want it for my own mental and I don't have a name for this character. So this is what
Yeah.
heavy on my mind lately. So
I love that you put in the doc, Google it. Like, I'm naming a character, Google it.
we are
Just
we are
it's in
gonna
all
talk about this.
caps.
Well, because okay, so we just we just
Yeah,
talked about this behind the scenes of why I'm
very
like, oh my
important.
god, Google that shit before you start naming your character after it. So what like do you have names for all your characters or do you just kind of have a look?
I do name them, and I don't
Okay.
have that many characters, but I do have 3,
Yeah.
um, and I'm working on a 4th, but I'm not far enough ahead on that
Okay.
one. But I do have 3 that are locked in, that have
Okay.
names, and, they don't all have backstories, but they definitely have names. I think
Okay.
it gets me into the headspace of it, you know?
Yes, it does. It helps you kind of create their personality, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
So
Okay.
I
That's
have
nice.
Maddox, obviously, and
Yes.
I took that directly from my surname, my
Yeah.
last name.
Yeah.
Um, I shouldn't say my last name. It's my
Well, your
wife's
new
last
last name.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took my wife's name when we married, so but that I mentioned that because some of my other names are sort of word jumbles of my maiden name, or,
Yes.
so that's how I sort of play with, like, naming characters. Like, my custom Mando, his name is Baron Sage, right?
Oh,
And it's a
I didn't even
word
know
jumble.
that.
Yeah. It's a word jumble of my maiden name. I'm not gonna
Okay.
reveal that.
I love that you call it your maiden name, PS, because I mean, like historically, like why it was called a maiden name, it was kinda like the woman's name before she was married, and you're like, "Yeah, it was my maiden name." Like,
Oh,
and
no,
I'm like, "Yeah."
I thought it was maiden, as I looked that up actually when I was like, "Okay, I'm taking my wife's name, so what do I
Yeah.
call my old name?"
Oh, is there a
And I
different
looked it
reason?
up, maiden as in first
Yeah.
voyage, maiden
Yeah.
voyage.
Oh, there we go, there we go.
So it's
I
the
was
first name,
whatever,
yeah.
like, we're talking about the
But it is
but
because it's
yeah, I love
associated
that.
to
It
women,
is
so it's made.
associated with yeah, with the young girl. This is my name when I
Yeah,
was a
I
young
like
girl.
saying
Mm.
maiden name though, because
I like it.
it makes it, like, puts people off too.
It
It puts the
it
right people
does.
off.
Right. Good for
think
you.
when I
I'm always
say it.
about kind of like swapping those, yeah, those ingrained gender things. Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
sorry,
if I
go ahead.
see someone have an issue with it, I'm like, you're not really somebody
It's a barometer, a good,
I don't
yeah.
think we're gonna get down. Yeah, I don't
Yep.
think we're really gonna get down. So I like saying maiden name, but I did look it up, and it
Yeah.
comes from
Okay.
like maiden as in
It
maiden
was
voyage,
the
first
maiden voyage.
voyage.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yep.
Um,
Okay, so you've used your name to just jumble around some letters to
mhm.
create a new word.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you
Yeah,
Google
and
it?
I d I didn't Google it, and I
So here's
should be.
so here's the thing that I am, like, just gonna say my biggest message, like, I think to take away from it because so I was looking for, a couple names. I was looking for one for my Mando character and one for my RPG character around the same time, and so it was
Mhm.
like yeah, and I was, like, looking at all sorts of different ways to find a name. Well, there was something that stuck, and so I was like, "I should Google this," and it was a word in a different language that I did not wanna be throwing around,
Oh,
and so I
no.
was like, "Good to know." So that's why I just say, like, before you, like, are set on a name, wherever you find it, Google it.
Oh, no. I definitely have to look this one up now, but it is a word jumble.
And it
I just
might not it might be
rearranged.
nothing, but,
It might be nothing, but I'm definitely gonna right after
yeah.
this record, I'm
Well,
definitely gonna look it up.
the other really interesting thing that I found is because, I mean, name generators are a really
Yeah.
common way that people are finding names, like, there's a Mando generator, there's a Twilight generator, there's probably other generators online, right? Which are really cool and really kind of a fun way to waste an afternoon when you have nothing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're sitting there watching, like, Sunday football or whatever, and you're still wanting to work on Star Wars, go generate some names. But, 2 things that I found, one were oh wow, this is a real word in another language. And it, it might not be that it's offensive, but it might be that maybe it just has a connotation that isn't what you're looking for your character.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing is businesses have these really random, have you, especially like small
Mhm.
tech companies or small financial firms, have you noticed this?
Yeah.
Where maybe if you haven't Googled as many as I do, I don't, maybe you haven't, but there's this really weird, like, trend in naming these small companies these it's hard to describe the word, but it's like these very new spacey sounding words. And now I'm trying to think of something um but it's just kind of fascinating, or there'll be an acronym for some sort of association
Right.
is another
Or a
thing that I found, and I was like,
portmanteau of, like, 2 different
yeah.
words that they,
Yeah. Like, in one there was some name that I was like, "Oh, I really like that," but it was like the South Florida Dental Association or whatever, you know what I mean? It was like I was like, "That's not really what I'm going for."
oh, Stifdla. Yeah.
But it was like something like that, that was like, "Okay, well, that's not really alright."
Yeah.
So those are just like that's why I'm like, Google it, Google it, Google it, Google it. After you think you found a name, Google it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I also have my merchant who I
Okay.
just like, well, not just, but, maybe about a month ago, I finally decided on his name, and I do
Nice.
have, I'm just gonna hold this up, no one's gonna see this except for us,
I
this
see
is
it.
in the
I see it.
privacy,
Yes.
and this is just me, like, just
I have that too.
jumbling up my name in different ways and finding things. Usually, like, I try to, like, I'll come up with something with, like, cool sounding things, but then
Yes.
it doesn't feel, it doesn't,
There we
like,
go.
to me, like, it doesn't feel like a part of me, which is why I've kinda stuck
Yeah.
to, like, well, I'm gonna take my name and I'm gonna jumble the words, because then at least there's, like, a piece of it that is still true and still mine,
Yeah.
although I need to Google it, but
Yeah, Google it, please.
so my merchant's name is Merce Fan,
Okay. I like it.
and, Merce from, like, it's my mother's middle name is
Oh, nice.
Mercedes, and Merce is, like, a shortened version of that, and I think it means, like, not to accrue wealth, but to, like, work to get wealth. I looked it up at some point, and I did look that
Nice.
one up, right?
Yeah.
And he's a merchant, so I was like,
Okay.
"That's perfect,"
That's
you know?
perfect.
So it's Merce
Absolutely.
Fan, but they call him, like, Meche, which is, like, the
Okay.
Spanish way to shorten Mercedes,
I
Meche.
like that. I
So
love that you're, like, bringing that real
yeah.
world, like, connection into it. Someone had told me once, like, definitely make sure it's a name that you're going to remember.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you're on Batu or at a convention or whatever, and someone's like, you're trying to be in character, you're like, yeah, damn, I can't remember my name.
My name is
That's
Lorfin
yeah,
Tornax,
you just
and it's
pull it
like,
out in like thin air.
yeah,
But I do love the idea. I went to because I was thinking I'm trying to name this one character for Star Cruiser, um, or not for Star Cruiser, for the Helsicon because
how's it
it's
going?
not Star Cruiser. But and I was like, oh, what if I mixed up like my grandmother's names? I was like, oh, that'd be
Mhm.
awesome. Well, it's Maris, who is already a character in Star Wars. I'm like, dang it,
Right,
it was already
right.
taken.
But maybe
It's
you can
like
make
that
it a
doesn't work.
last name or like
Yeah,
adjust it a
right.
little bit, change the
Yeah, just
spelling or
that's not.
something, you know?
Yeah, totally. The other thing I went
Throw an
and ran.
apostrophe in. That's like,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Like, make it a little, like, hyphenate it a little differently, like, little infliction
Yeah.
on a different Raimi was just mentioning that, like, his Burgundy Squadron name is taken from, like, a joke, but then he took the joke and put it in, like, Icelandic, and so it
Mhm.
sounded very much like a name, and, that's how so the other character, when we're actually on Batuu the Sunday after the Helsicon, Adam and I have a whole photo shoot with Dee, and we've got, different characters that we're playing because
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
And so I did name that character and I used Old English. Like I looked
Oh,
up, I was like,
nice.
well, what are these words in Old English? Because like, you know, not many people know that language anymore, right? Like, so,
And yeah.
but it had a cool sound to it. So I was like, yeah, you can look into some things like that. Especially because it's not a language that was used anymore. I didn't feel so bad about like if I found a really cool name, but it was like, well, this is an old Hindu name, I might be like, I don't have any connection to old Hindu, maybe I
Right.
shouldn't be using that name. But this one I
Absolutely.
was like,
I get
I
it.
can pilfer this. Like, yeah, for sure.
I get it.
So
And again, like when we were talking about like building, crafting your backstory, like take from life. It's just gonna feel, if
yeah.
you take little inspirations from life or things, like it's gonna feel more yours in a
Yeah.
way. I mean, you don't have to. No one has to do any of these things, but like for me at least, like it builds a tighter connection to it because it
Mhm.
it feels more mine. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. We definitely need like we need more yearbooks. So I remember who everyone's like, okay, this is your name for this character. This is your name for this character. Because I was
So
talking with
hard.
Adam about this. We're talking a lot about our plan for the Star Cruiser and just joking about how some people in our crowd are only called by their character name, like Aish Rao. Like
Right.
I only refer to or Zach Eskrin. I
Yeah.
only there's definitely a few, and we're just like, oh, it's so funny how like some of them that OC name has like glommed onto or Eider. I only will mention, and some
Yeah.
people it's because I think they're only using it, like myself, like only using the character name as their publicity name, their public name,
A
right,
bit of
these days. But
anonymity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it's also funny that, and I'm like, well,
Billy
if you
is not
have
my real
three,
first name. You heard
wait,
it
are you
here
serious?
first. Yeah.
Oh no way! I didn't know that.
Billy is a
Known you for how
long,
long? I didn't
storied
know that.
nickname. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Okay,
look,
gotcha.
my mother-in-law calls me Billy. Like,
Okay,
it is
okay.
a 20
Yeah,
plus year old,
yeah.
like, nickname, you know?
I get that completely.
So, it
Yeah,
has stuck.
okay.
Yeah.
I come from a family my
There are more
dad
people in
was
this planet on this planet that call me Billy
they call
than
you
anything
Billy?
else, so,
No, it's the same my dad was the same
yeah.
way where he was given a nickname when he was, like, 3, and it stuck.
Mhm.
And he literally, like, went
Yeah.
through school with his teachers calling him this nickname, and so my my dad, big Catholic family, right? Big Irish Catholic family, so lots of cousins. But like one cousin that I've stayed close to, and his daughter's like around my age, so we actually just saw them a few weeks ago. Um, and I was visiting with them one time, and her dad was telling stories and said something about I said something about my dad's name or something, and she was like, "Hold the phone, George was not his name." No, no, it wasn't actually. That's not his real name. Like a whole side of the family, or like I had done, I'd filled
Yeah.
out Christmas cards for my mom one year because she had had elbow surgery and couldn't write. And she would be like, no, 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 you can't send that to dad's cousin with that name. They won't know who it is.
They won't know. Like, who's
Like, so
Larry?
literally, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
right. It was like,
Who's
It was definitely this, like, mom's side of the family knew the legal name, but dad's side of the family only knew his nickname and took that as his
Yeah,
legal name, so, like, yeah, it
yeah,
gets confusing sometimes for sure, but
yeah,
us folks who have, like, 3 or 4 characters, it's always like, "Okay, so does one stick, or do I call you by
yeah.
what name do I call you by?"
It's
Um,
funny because, like, when I meet new people, it depends on which context I meet them,
yeah,
whether I divulge my real name. Obviously,
okay.
like, at work, I have to.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's
So,
true.
any job that I've ever had, they know my real
They know
name.
you're the real you. So
Um,
now and I guess that's a good question, like, do you feel more in your own personal character with your real given name or with Billy? Like, you know what I mean? Or are they 2 parts of your own self?
well, my OC's name is not Billy Maddox, it's just
Yeah.
Maddox, right?
Yeah.
But I feel more like Billy. I think there are
Yeah.
more people on this planet that call me Billy
Yeah.
than my real name. So
Yeah.
so when I'm like, for instance, if you go somewhere where you have to or like where you have to order something and they say, "Oh,
Yeah.
can you give me your name so that we can call you
Mhm.
when it's ready?"
Yeah.
It's a moment where I glitch out a little bit because I'm like,
You're
they
like,
don't
"What's your
care.
name?"
They just need a name. Like,
Yeah.
say a name, but it takes me
They're not gonna
a
withhold your
second.
coffee if you don't have
They're
your
like,
legal name.
yeah, you better that's not on your ID, like, you're
Yeah.
not getting this mocha, like, um, but,
Man, your baristas
similarly,
are real serious in England.
yeah, similarly, like, if the the, like, if I meet someone on the street or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, like, what's your name?" or something, like, I'll default to Billy because 'cause I'm like, "I don't know you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't get my"
Totally. Right?
So, yeah, but anyway.
You don't know me.
Billy, you don't know me.
Uh,
Billy it is though, but Billy, I tell more people, I like I said, more people on this planet call me Billy than any
yeah.
than my actual given name.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's
unless you're my
yeah.
mom or my job, um,
Right.
then you don't get it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Naming naming a human being is tough as being somebody who has done it. I mean, naming a dog,
Right.
like when we named our dog, it took us like a week, right? But like naming
Yeah,
my child is like, so like,
that's
even naming
intense.
my OC, I have that level of like, this OC is going to carry this name for its entire life.
Mhm.
Like, meaning the entire time I am like invested in this OC. But if I'm investing in the look and the backstory and the build, I
Yeah.
want to
The
invest, which I
time,
think
the
why
money
this
as well.
one character, yeah, I think why this one character, it's a little bit tough for me because it's been tough for me to build it. It's this business person. It's this I'm trying to be a
Right.
little bit different than what I am, and so it's a little bit tough for me to convey that. Whereas like the character for my Batu photo shoot with Holoscan Database is uh I'm very excited actually. It's more me. She's a space
Yeah.
hippie. And so
Yeah.
she's like, like I'm like I was very that was an easy name to come up with because I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna pull this inspiration. But trying to name a character that's different than your personality and things like that is tough, I think.
Mhm.
So, um, with my Mando, because that character was created by Liam by T-Face Cowboy, she had a family name because he has this whole backstory
Right.
of like this Mando group on this planet.
On this
And so
planet, yeah.
there's certain families. And so Liam was like, I'm thinking she fits in with this family. I'm like, yeah, great, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was like, it weaned it down for me a little bit. I wanted to find something that sounded good with the last name. But then I also wanted, what is the last name? Now I'm even forgetting it, but I just pulled it up in my notes. I gotta scroll through my notes.
But
What's
that
the
makes
last
it
name?
that makes it easier because then you have something to, like, bounce off the
Yeah,
first
right?
name off of,
It's not a
like,
total blank
that.
slate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah, which is difficult.
Yeah.
My Mando took a long time for
Yeah,
me
what
to
is your Mando's
finally
name again?
Baron Sejo.
Baron Sajo. Yeah.
Beransejo. Baron
Yeah.
Sejo.
Yeah.
And I was
It's
like,
a
"Should I put an
solid name.
apostrophe somewhere in there? Baran?" No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I
I
just
did
made
that
it
with
Baron
my
Sejo. But it's not
I did
Baron
that
as
with
in
my
Baron. I think I'm saying
oh,
it weird.
yeah.
For now that I'm saying it a
But
bunch of
it's wait,
times,
how do
it
you spell it
sounds
again?
weird.
Spell it again.
Beran.
B-A-B-E B-E yeah.
Ran.
Ba yeah.
Baron.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of
Baron
different ways to
Sejo.
spell, like, that word. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like a lot of different mean because you have a baron like who is a ruler and a
Right.
barren wasteland, like, and
Right.
you know, and like I feel like there's a lot of other offshoot like words that sound like just bear or bearing, like you're bearing the weight of something, or
Yeah.
you know, like so I feel like I like that you spelled it in an unusual way to kind of
Okay. Well, it's the
be
word
different. Yeah, I
I
like
had
it.
set letters I had to
Yeah,
use.
I like it. I think it works. Yeah,
And then the last name Seijo. So I'm
yeah.
from, I don't know, I guess Clan Seijo, but
I
that's
was gonna say, where'd you get Seijo?
Sejo. That's
Sejo.
again that name is probably the closest word
Okay.
jumble to my maiden name.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
Of
that's right. That was the word jumble. I like
yeah,
that idea. I'm gonna go and do some word jumbles soon to try and name this character.
yeah,
With my Mando because she already had the last name of like the family name of Vel, Vell, which I
nice.
loved. It was very so she's a naturalist. She's like she's an herbalist.
I love it.
And so she like does a lot of wandering and gathering, and she's I think a little we talk a lot about like a couple dents and scrapes on the helmet because I was like, oh yeah, like she's crawling under logs. She's like digging in ferns. She's like, you
Yeah.
know, like, and so then I named her after an
Oh,
insect family.
perfect.
So it's Nicaea. And because I was like, oh man,
CFL.
yeah, Nicaea Vel. And like you don't like looking into like the scientific nicknames of something is something you can do too. Like not too many
Yeah.
people you're gonna run across know that that's a small winged insect in Africa.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
that's amazing.
Right?
It sounds very pretty.
And
It sounds
it
great.
rolls off the tongue, right?
Yeah.
We also talked, Adam, Junk Traders Outpost and I had been because we're talking about these characters, and it was definitely like, yeah, like a lot of Star Wars names are like kind of 1, 2 syllables, like,
Right.
you know, a lot of the main people, sometimes like just the syllable, the cadence of the name,
Yep.
like you'll know it, right? When you're like, oh yeah, that's a Star Wars name.
Yeah, I don't know. My Mando name felt that way to me. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and there's a list like I showed you, there's a
Yes.
list
Yeah.
of it's just the same few letters jumbled up in a bunch of ways, and I finally zeroed in on that one because it just
Yeah.
sounded right to me. I was like, "Okay."
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I used to do when I was a kid too, I used to write like a lot of like fantasy fiction when I was a kid. I
Okay.
don't think any of it survived, but just for fun. Because you know we didn't have screens attached to our fingertips back then, right?
Yeah.
And I actually had a map of my state hanging on my wall, and I used
Okay.
to just also I don't know, I was a weird kid, you guys. My God,
Yeah.
I used to
It's
literally
okay.
just pore over this map looking for interesting names of towns too. And I
Yeah.
kept a notebook back then, and sometimes I would just change letters around a little bit, but that was another thing that I got was like,
Yeah.
you know, like just
There's also
kinda like
I mean, that's a good way to pull from your environment and stuff like that.
yeah.
There's that game that you can play where it's like, "Oh, what would your drag name be?" And it's supposed to be the name of your first pet
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
name of the street you grew up on. Mine is Chi Chi Miller, which I love, right? Um, I will explore that at some point. Well, I have actually, but anyway, no, not in a serious
Okay,
way.
wait.
But
That's another episode.
that's another episode.
Star Wars drag.
Um,
Oh, write that down.
yeah. So that's also another way where you can kind of, you can pull up from like, I don't know, your the street where you met the street where
Yeah.
you found your dog. I don't know,
Yes. Unless you live in a
you can
city
do
like
things
me
like that.
and you're on like 125th Street or something like that. But yes, I think that is a great idea. Or like nobody's gonna know the street that your grandparents lived on or something, right? Like
Yeah.
totally works.
Raimi just
Yeah.
popped in the chat that there are some letter combos that
Yeah.
evoke Star Wars too. Double T's like in Fett, and Wookiee names have like double letters, which is
Yeah.
that's another way to kind of
Yeah.
maybe take something that sounds not so, extravagant or something, but add an
Yeah.
extra, add an extra
Yeah,
letter and it'll
yeah.
start to
A little
look
extra Star
in
Wars
written
flair.
form.
And that's what like with the apostrophes too, there's
Mhm.
some I like a lot of Mandos I see are doing that. So when I made
Mhm.
my RPG character, I had just named my Mando character, and so I was thinking a lot of like
Yeah.
apostrophes. And so then but then I named her, but then I looked in and I found some article about Twi'lek names, and apparently their apostrophe goes, according to this article, in between the first and last name. So then I had to kind of rename her because I was like, oh,
Oh,
that didn't
okay.
work. So I kind of renamed her, and I didn't like the name as much, but that's
I
fine.
didn't know the rules with the apostrophes. On that list, there's a bunch
Yeah.
of like there's even Baron Sajo with an apostrophe in different
Oh, yep,
places to like
yep.
figure, and I was like, I don't know
Totally,
enough about this to
yeah. And I
confidently
don't
go in with an
I don't
apostrophe.
know if there's maybe some of our Mando friends can like message us or
Yeah.
something when they are hearing this episode, because I don't know if there is a rule in the Mando, but there was, and I'll have to look it up where I found this article about Twi'lek OCs, and
Yeah.
apparently that was the rule of Twi'leks, and I was like, okay, good to
Yeah.
know.
Send us messages, Mandos. Where should
Yes.
I put my
Yeah.
apostrophe?
Yes. What's the proper apostrophe placement if you're a Mando?
Yeah.
Dying to know. Yeah, but I love that you keep a list on your phone too, because I have like a list that's, the little sticky note list that's literally just Star Wars names at the top. And
I
because
keep pulling
sometimes I
from
see
them.
road names, or
Yeah.
sometimes I'm driving by and I see like, I don't know, like a sign for an insurance salesman. I like their last name or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, that would
Yeah.
make a good Star Wars name. So yeah, there's lots of different places to find them.
my my wife and I play this game. She's not a Star Wars fan. Um,
Yes.
we
I
play this
loved
game
your
sometimes where um she'll get in a silly mood and she's like, "Do you want me to name some characters?" Right? And I'll just show her pictures of random Star Wars characters and she'll just come up with a name on the spot, like
She's a
or
live Star Wars name generator.
and
Like
and and
like
and
live
they're
in
really
person.
good sometimes. They're really good sometimes.
You're like, "Hang on, let me write that down."
Or sometimes, like, I don't know, what is it that she'll say? But she'll say, like what do you think you are? This isn't Clargon 7." And I'm like, "That doesn't even sound it's not even like Star Wars. Like, it's not even how it sounds. It's not even the name." We have a lot of fun like that. I love when she comes up with the names. She has no context at
I feel
all.
like you 2 now need to record a little clip that Rami can put
Yeah.
into this episode, because I think that would just please, 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 of you 2 sitting on the couch and she's just like, "Yeah,
Who
that's
is
so
this?
and
Who is
so."
this? Yeah, that's funny. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
I
sure she
love it.
knows the main ones.
Yeah.
But if I show her, like, I don't know, some random, like, some random
Yes. Yes, Rami,
Twi'lek.
yes.
Yeah.
Please do. Yeah, the outtakes. It would be Billy and
Yeah.
his wife
I'll see. She's not
doing.
feeling well, so I'll see if we can do that. But
Oh,
yeah, we have time. We have time.
yeah, we've got some time. Yeah. Oh man, that's hilarious. But yeah, I feel like also like when you find that name, you'll know when it fits
It
that
hits you, right? It
character.
just kind of
It
like,
does.
"Oh," and it dawns
Because
on you.
especially if you've got an idea of like who you want them to be, who they have been, like where they're
Mhm.
coming from, um, those things help. But it is an extension of their story, and
Yeah,
how people see them is their name.
yeah. Yeah, you see, that's why I never gave Matt. Well, I don't know if I don't know if Maddox is his first or last name, and
Oh, because
I
it's
will
just
never reveal that.
Maddox. Oh,
Yeah, it's just Maddox.
I like that.
Um, and I'll never reveal that because that's part of his story is that he's a spy. Like,
Yeah,
is
I
that
love
even his
that.
real name or is that a code name?
Yes.
We will
Yeah.
never know. That's just what people know him by, and that's why I kind of wanted to do just the single name, no last name, because it
Yeah.
kind of like um, it shifts his placement everywhere. Whenever I come up in like the denizens of the rims like
Mhm,
books and stuff, like
mhm.
all of my uh timeline, all of my dates
Mhm.
are redacted.
Redacted. Yeah.
Even when I wrote my bio, like the top bit of it is like born redacted, like
Yep.
age redacted, like this
Yep.
redacted. Um, because
Yeah.
it
He works in the shadows.
shouldn't shouldn't be known. And that, like you were saying, that it informs the character a bit. Huh?
Yeah.
Who's this guy? He doesn't have a first and last name. Like, where is he from?
Yep.
So yeah,
Totally. Yes, it definitely does. And I feel like also, like, I mean, imagine if Boba Fett was named Bob Fett, right? I mean, or
Ooh,
like, it definitely helps set this world. It puts this Star Wars facade on it, right?
yeah.
So Oh, just like
Well,
Palpatine, one
also,
name. Oh, yeah.
Raimi just said, just like Palpatine, one name. He's like, we're gonna ignore that Sheev nonsense first name they
Yeah.
tried to give him.
Yeah, yeah. I
No,
never
no,
liked that name.
it's nebulous. And that's where I sort of wanted that character to be.
Yeah.
I wanted him to friend and foe not really know everything about him.
Yeah.
I think in my head, in his character Bible, like it's not that he is um withholding, especially not to his friends. It's just something that he does. Like,
Mhm.
it keeps
Yeah.
everybody safe, not
Yeah.
just like himself.
I like that. I'd tell you,
Um,
but I'd have to kill you.
yeah. Yeah, but not even. It's like, I'd tell you, but it would put you in danger. It's
Yeah.
probably more
Yeah.
his speed
Yeah.
with his friends.
Right.
Yeah.
You know how like in James Bond they have numbers or letters like M, just goes by M.
Right.
The letters in Arabesh all have names, right?
They do.
Like I'm gonna look into that for a character someday, just going by
That's
a
yeah.
letter, like the name of the
Um,
letter.
when I went to Cancun and I did that like Mission Monday where I
Yeah.
was like finding this like hidden rebel base, I called the base um um Mern's Zesh, which is MX, which is Mexico, right?
Yes.
Which is the
Yes, I
code
love
for
that.
Mexico. So
That's actually
that's a
a
good
really
place to
good
pull
sounding
from.
name. Mern
Yeah.
Zash. I like that. Right. Envision season 1, Raimi's like
Raven's
Raimi's
in
in the
this. I was
background,
gonna
like, I
jump
know
in
he
there.
should just come in this episode. There's a
Oh
Jedi
yeah,
character with
there
the name F.
is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And also like, sometimes names are adopted. Like, that just
Mhm.
reminded me of like Finn. Like his name isn't Finn. His name is
Yeah, isn't
he
Finn.
had a trooper name FN
Yeah.
2187, and like
Yeah.
Finn. I'm gonna call you
Yeah.
Finn.
Mhm. Right? Well,
So
and
sometimes it
and
works. He
Chewie
doesn't have a last name. His name is Finn.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's just yeah. Well, and Chewbacca, I feel like wasn't called Chewie by anybody else until Han, right? Like, so
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
that and we all do get those names that
Yeah.
friends give us and that, like, yeah, this is my name, but nobody calls me that.
Yeah.
Everyone calls
Yeah.
me that. So
I
I
like
like
the
that.
idea of also incorporating, building in like a nickname or a code name
Mhm.
to your character. Um, we have Beth in Burgundy Squadron who I'm blanking on her name right now. Elspeth.
Yes.
I forget her last name, but it's Elspeth. She's got an apostrophe, but
Yes.
she built in a code name, and her code name is Verde, which is green in
I
spelling.
like
And
that.
with her
Yes.
backstory, which is one of my favorites, so if bingo cards out. Um, we haven't mentioned her, so
I
here it is.
know.
Snip Sabers, go follow her. She's incredible. She's one of
Yes.
my favorite, like,
Oh, such good Ferrex
costumes.
Friday
Like,
photos
she's
every time.
incredible. Oh my
Yes.
god. Like, but anyway, sorry. Um, her backstory, um, is she was like an environmentalist, but
Mm.
an environmentalist activist, and like the Empire came and like destroyed like the nature of her planet, and that's what sort of brought her on to like fight,
Yes.
the fight, which I
Yeah.
thought was like so original and so great. Came with a code name Verdi,
Mhm.
and I don't know why I'm saying it like that. I know how to say it. It's Verde, but but I'm sure
You
it's
you're watering it down for all of us American
I know.
listeners.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So you guys can
Those
say
of
it.
us who took
You guys
Spanish in
say it
7th
along
grade.
with me. But like my character, like I wanted, my merchant character, Merce Fan, um, came with a nickname of Merchant. Not that I'm
Yes.
gonna say it very much or
Yeah.
anything, but if I ever go and write a story or something,
Yeah.
I'd like to incorporate that in there. But
We do. We need a yearbook. We need
we
a 1
will.
through 50 yearbook. I love that.
We do. I think we
So
do. I've been in the background. I've been doing a lot of
okay.
like layout kind of stuff, and I think I want to uh,
Nice.
pull some people in. I'd really love
Nice.
Luke to help
Yeah.
out with that if he ever
That'd be
submits his
awesome.
character. Maybe he
Hey,
can be
Luke.
50 and then he can help me on the
Nudge,
layout
nudge.
because he's got the look that I think we both
Yeah.
sort of play in, which is a very sort of like distressed like thing.
Yes.
I wanted to do it like it was I'll just share. I wanted to
Okay.
do it as if it was an Imperial dossier. So rather than it being like a character sheet, I want it to be a file of
Oh my
all of
god.
our, like, their records on us,
Yes.
each
Dang.
individually. So
Yes.
that's the idea. I'll just put it out there into the
Nice.
universe. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's what I've
Okay.
been playing with. Like, that's what I
I
want it to be,
l
because we're all spies, and most of us, like, at some point or another, are on the run, or like in hiding, or you just don't know who and where we are. Like, that's just
Yes.
baked into
Oh,
to
I
the
love
story of
that.
that squadron. So, um, I wanted to do it like a dossier. Now, I don't know if that exists in
Yeah.
universe, but who cares? Like,
Yeah, right.
we're doing it
You can
anyway,
make anything happen.
Yeah, it's gonna have a paperclip in it, I'm sure, like, printed like a paperclip. Uh,
What would it anyway, that's
I
a whole
wanted it
nother
to
I
be
was like,
like a
"What would
dossier,
Star Wars
like
paperclip
a
look like?" We
dossier,
won't
like
go
a
on.
folder. If
Yeah,
the FBI had a folder on you, and
yeah,
there's, like, photos clipped
totally.
onto, like, bio with, like, your
Oh, I
rap
love it.
sheet
Well, and then
on it.
characters like I could have, like, the ACA, like, and then, like, these, like, little other characters that these cover characters that I have, right? Like
Exactly, exactly, like
oh my
aliases,
god,
like, I
I love
wanted to include aliases, different,
yes.
like, different looks that, like,
Oh my
especially for
god.
some of us that tend to, like, really sort of, change our looks and shapeshift. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes they look like this, sometimes they look like this, like,
Yep.
all of that. So that was my
Ugh,
idea. It's bouncing around in there. I think I'm gonna,
alright.
think we have to do it. We have to.
Yeah, it
It's
has
out
to
in the
happen.
universe now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's gonna come about. Oh, I love that. Well, and I feel like, going back to naming, like, naming kinda releases your character into the universe, I feel like. It's kind of
Yeah.
the icing on my cake is like,
Yeah.
okay, like, there is a name, this character is now real.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So let us know.
Yeah.
I'm
I don't know if I
curious, like,
started or ended
where
with the name.
yes, well, because sometimes I do start with it. It's very true,
Yeah.
but as I'm kinda, like, building their personality, I'm also thinking of what the name would be, and not necessarily that
Yeah.
the outfit is ready, but it's usually like, "Okay, I gotta make this happen now," because, like, they're named. It's
Yeah.
gonna it's gonna be real. I'm a real boy.
There's a lot of stuff like that
Yeah.
you can play with, and in building your character. Also, like, like, how, like, I'm kind of a low level, like, sometimes I go by Commander Maddox, right?
Uh-huh.
And people
Yeah.
are like, "Why are you such a low level, rank?"
Yeah.
And it's because, and I'll tell you exactly where Commander came from. Um, James Bond, you mentioned James Bond earlier.
Yeah.
He's a commander in the
Oh,
Royal Navy.
I
He's
totally
not a
forgot that.
high-ranking officer, and they
Yeah.
won't take a high-ranking officer to put him as a spy, because too many
Yes.
people know who he is, like,
Yes. There's too
which
much
is
at
where
stake.
there's too much at stake. It's also too
Yep.
many people know him, so you get sort of low level, pull him out
Yeah.
of, like, service, and then, put him into
Yes.
an espionage sort of role. So
Right.
that's where that came from as well. So people are
Oh,
like,
that's
"Why are you such a
brilliant.
low you're like Burgundy leader, why are you such a low military rank?" And it's like, "'Cause that doesn't matter anymore. Like, we're not
Right.
there anymore. Like,
Well,
we're
also
just."
because we are supposed to be so in the shadows, it's not like
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. I
like,
didn't wanna
they
be a
don't want
general that then becomes a
anyone who's
spy. "Oh, you mean General
yeah,
Maddox? That guy?"
yeah.
Like,
Nobody's paying attention to us. That's the purpose, right? Like,
exactly, exactly.
yes. Oh, I love
And
it.
James Bond was a commander, very low level naval officer, or whatever,
There we go.
you call
Yeah.
that. But anyway, yeah, we've
Yeah.
we've gone on. Did we cover names? I think we covered names, right?
I think we Google it, Google it, Google it, Google
Google
it.
it. Yeah, I think the important takeaway is, like, come up with a
Well,
cool name, but then Google it in case
and the
it's
other
something
thing
and
is I
another.
will also say, like, there's a couple names I rattled around in my brain and been like, "Does that sound just too much like does it sound like a word that I'm not looking for?" You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, Google it and maybe, like, run it past a friend or 2,
Yeah.
to be like, "How does this sound?" But, yeah, I'm curious, if other folks are using different methods or if, like, the scrambling of the letters or the name generator or the,
Yeah.
like, looking up scientific names of insects. Like, how are you or, I've used mountains as well. I've Googled mountains in the
Yes.
world, and I've named some characters for I had
Yes.
written a murder mystery a year ago, a murder mystery game, and I had to name some characters, and so, I was, like, looking for I used mountains for a couple of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, it's There's all
I
sorts of places to
remembered
find
something that
names.
I was gonna
Oh, yes. Oh,
say.
good.
Parade Rainer, who we had on this show, he's
Yeah.
friend of ours. Um, his backstory, because I get everyone's backstory, so
Yeah.
like I have them burned into my brain. His name is Rainer Malbus, which is the same last name as one of the characters from Rogue One, because they're related. That's also a
Oh.
way to kind of, like, maybe separate yourself in time, like, "That was my great-grandfather," or
Mhm. I
whatever,
love that.
or a long lost cousin or something like that,
Yeah.
if you
That's
want to,
yeah.
connect something, and I think it might be, you know, a heritage thing. I think they're from
Yeah,
the same
okay.
the actor and stuff,
Well,
yeah.
especially because if it's one of these background characters that not as many people even know the name,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's, like, extra fun to do that, I feel like, because then it's like, nobody knows who this person is, but if somebody happens to know, it can be like, "Oh, yeah, it's my mom's 3rd cousin."
Exactly, which I think is cool. It could build to the story as well.
Right?
There's a lineage of, like, rebellion there as well,
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really cool. I like it.
yeah.
Whew, man, names. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you get it?
I think we got it. I think we got it. That's
Alright, alright.
names.
But let us know where you who what your Star Wars name is and where you got it from, because 'cause I'm curious if there's another method that
Yeah,
I'm not using.
I wanna hear more.
Yeah.
And I have to say everyone's really creative. No one's really like, sometimes people come to me and they're like, "Oh, like, I'm trying to work on my story, this, that, and the other." I've never had anyone say, like, "I'm trying to work on my name." Everyone comes in and, like, my name is, you know
So it's
you know,
just me that's having trouble with
Table
naming this one
Table
character.
Lampa, like, like and I'm like, "Okay, wow, you're into tables and lamps, alright." That's cool. Anyway, I'm sorry. Kate, tell the people where they can find you.
Oh my gosh, I am on Instagram at One Scavenger's Wardrobe. And Billy, where can folks find you?
I'm at Billy Maddox. Come say hi,
If
over
you
on
believe that that's his
Instagram.
name.
If you believe that that's my name. One of them is. And you can find us both at Off the Rack Rebellion. Send us comments there or to us individually. We'll get to them. And that's Off the Rack Rebellion with periods in between. Once again, thank you so much to our producer Rami and the Dad Batch for bringing us into their family. And remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now. Approved. Got a couple of people,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna ask you what their names are.
Okay.
These are people from Star Wars.
Okay.
Okay.
But I already know that guy.
No. Well, okay, that's fine because I've put in some that you might know.
Okay.
But okay, so who's this guy?
Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Okay. Who's this guy?
That's Klaxon.
Who's this guy?
That's General Flang.
Who's this guy?
Vlogenstock.
Who's this guy?
Oraclaus.
Oracles?
Yeah.
Nice. Who's this guy?
Flan.
This guy's name is.
Flan.
I like the first one better. Okay, who's this guy?
Oh, that's Ricky Two Shoes.
Ricky Two Shoes.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's this guy?
Polax Rainstar.
Nice. Who's this guy?
Oh, that's Anakin Skywalker.
Nice. Who's this guy? Oh, this lady.
She is Princess Wayfleer.
Oh, okay, that's it. Those are all of them.